Well, what the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
War's over, man. Wormer dropped a big one.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
German? Forget it, he's rolling.
It ain't over now. Because when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Who's with me? Let's go! Come on! Ah!
Hello there, and welcome back to Damn Good Movie Memories. I'm your host, Brian Davis. For this week's episode, we're going to get into our favorite underdog stories. Now, most of the time when you think about underdog stories, you're thinking sports. Well, we didn't limit to just sports because eventually we will do our favorite sports movies. But for this, it could be anyone that is not expected to do as well as they do. And I thought this would be kind of an easy list. I'd have a top 5, but I had a ton of movies to go through. So this week, it's going to be a top 10, and I have plenty left over, and I'll have the leftovers at the end of the show. Okay, so for number 10 on my list of my favorite underdog movies is It's a Wonderful Life from 1946. Now, again, this is kind of a weird one because there are almost like two underdogs in this movie. Of course, you have George Bailey, who played by Jimmy Stewart, who is trying to keep his struggling savings and loan business away from the evil Mr. Potter, who is trying to basically take over the entire town. So you have the small town guy trying to do good, but then later in the movie, you also have Clarence the Angel, who is definitely an underdog because he's been around forever, trying to get his wings, and of course, he can never do it, and so his big chance is to help George Bailey. So this is one of the best underdog movies there is. You might think, well, why isn't it higher on your list? Well, because I have a ton of other ones, but It's a Wonderful Life, definitely an underdog movie. Underdog. Number 9 on my list is Cinderella. Now, this might seem actually kind of obvious. I mean, if there has ever been a more fabled underdog story, it's Cinderella. But the version I'm going to go with, of course, is the Disney animated version from 1950. I don't know if it holds completely true to the original story, but look, if there's ever been an underdog, it's Cinderella. She has her evil stepsisters. She's, just lower class in the sense of there's no way she is meant to ever meet Prince Charming, but of course she does and succeeds. What's fun about the animated version are the little characters, like Gus and Jock and things like that. But yeah, Cinderella, one of the top underdog movies. Underdog. Number 8 is the first sports movie on this list, even though it's not your typical sports movie, and that's Happy Gilmore from 1996. Of course, it's ridiculous. Happy Gilmore is a comedy starring our Adam Sandler, who plays an unorthodox golfer who kind of takes the PGA by storm. And actually, this could have been on last week's episode for amazing quotable movies. But yeah, I've always enjoyed this movie. It's super fun. The dialogue's great, especially between Carl Weathers, who plays Chubbs, and of course Adam Sandler. So Sandler decides to do things his own way, much to the chagrin of the PGA legacies, and you see what happens. But it's a terrific underdog story.
You're gonna die, clown! The price is wrong, bitch.
Number 7 for my favorite underdog movies is The Legend of Billie Jean from 1985. Now, this is kind of a dark horse and definitely an underdog story, but if you grew up in the 80s, you likely saw The Legend of Billie Jean at some point, whether on cable TV or video rental. The plot is pretty loose, but kind of takes a Joan of Arc kind of anti-hero coming-of-age sort of term. And so Billie Jean stars Helen Slater, who went on to star as Supergirl, or actually it was before this movie, but she was in Supergirl. A very young Christian Slater, Yeardley Smith, Keith Gordon, and Peter Coyote. So while I admit the film is kind of cheesy, it's still a lot of nostalgic fun. You kind of get the girl power thing going with Billie Jean, who stands up for what she feels is she's been wronged. If you haven't seen the movie, I won't spoil it for you, but it's definitely worth checking out. And I love the Pat Benatar theme for Invincible, so I love it in all its 80s glory. Number 6 is My Cousin Vinny from 1992. My Cousin Vinny is a really well-done comedy featuring Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei, and this might be one of Pesci's best non-gangster role, and Marissa Tomei is perfectly cast as Pesci's outspoken fiance. The great part about this is definitely this is an underdog story because nobody expects Vinny to get the two kids off who have been wrongfully accused of a robbery they did not commit, and Vinny is just completely incompetent as a lawyer, especially to begin with, especially in a small town. We have small town politics and small town law going on. But of course, like a true underdog, he perseveres, and the ending is priceless. The film also marks Fred Gwynne, who played Herman Munster, his final film appearance before death a year later. The back-and-forth chemistry between Pesci and Gwynne is terrific and really are the main highlights of the film. This is the type of movie I never get tired watching over and over.
Is it possible the two youths...
The two what? What was that word?
What word?
Two what?
What?
Did you say utes?
Yeah, two youths.
What is a ute?
Oh, excuse me, Your Honor. Two youths.
Number 5 is Say Anything from 1989. Now, John Cusack, who plays the character Lloyd Dobler in this movie, you keep rooting for him to get the girl, played by Ione Skye, and you know he's got something about him. On the surface, it doesn't seem like he's much. He's kind of a nerdy guy, but everyone seems to like him. But he has a certain charm that eventually wins over Skye, and eventually they kind of make this really cute couple. But going forward, going through the movie, you're just wondering, where is he going to go with this? Can he actually pull it off? And of course, he does. Number 4 is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington from 1939. I think a lot of casual movie fans get Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and Mr. Deeds Goes to Town mixed up. It would be an honest mistake, as both films are directed by Frank Capra and both star Jean Arthur. However, for Mr. Smith, the main character Jefferson Smith is played by the always wonderful James Stewart. Stewart plays a naive man who is appointed to fill a vacancy in the United States Senate. Of course, his political views are much more wholesome and not as politically corrupt as the Washington stranglehold that they have already on politics. So for those who are disgusted with the way politics are nowadays, you'll be happy to know that really nothing has changed from when this movie was filmed to today's shenanigans. In addition to Stewart and Arthur, the film co-stars Claude Rains as the shady senator, and Edward Arnold plays a corrupt political mastermind, kind of like a lot of lobbyists today. And like most Capra films, it's a David versus Goliath type of tale that Capra was the master of. Of course, nobody will forget the filibuster that Mr. Smith does at the end of the movie. Number 3 is Hoosiers from 1986. This is easily one of the best basketball movies ever made. Sorry, Space Jam, you don't win. What makes this movie so great is that it's loosely based on a real team, and there is a version of the DVD that actually includes a 1954 championship game based on Hickory. It's really a trip seeing the players take set shots. Gene Hackman is one of the greatest actors of all time. He's just one of those actors that I will make a point of seeing every movie he's in just because he's in it. Hackman currently seems very content in retirement, but his legacy and filmography really speaks for itself. And the other gem of this movie is the powerful performance by Dennis Hopper, who replaced the alcoholic father of one of the players. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in 1987, but lost out to Michael Caine for Hannah and Her Sisters. Which, of course, leads me to a rant about the Oscars. Not so specifically about Hopper's loss, but personally, I've always found the Oscars to be a joke, especially with the Best Picture category. Some of the most amazing and popular films that still resonate with movie viewers are usually snubbed by the elite Academy of voters, and Hoosiers is a perfect example. It would never win an Academy Award on its own, but still it's the type of movie that lives on and on and on, and part of that reason is the underdog nature of this story. Number 2 is The Karate Kid from 1984. You'll probably guess what my number 1 pick is, because it basically follows the same format. Well, this movie follows the same format as that, but The Karate Kid is definitely the blueprint of an underdog story But there's so many great bits and pieces to this movie that make it unique. Pat Morita was the perfect Mr. Miyagi, and I always had a thing for Elizabeth Shue as Allie. The other great part of the movie were the villains. So from Martin Kove to being the evil sensei to the Cobra Kai guys, especially William Zabka, who was the perennial bad guy in a ton of 80s movies. My dad always laughed that Ralph Macchio was cast as a teenager since he seemed way older. As it turns out, he was 22 when he made the movie. I also love the soundtrack to the film, especially the tournament montage with "You're the Best." And the reason it works so well is it kind of got you into that underdog mode, and you were really rooting for him. And deep down, you kind of had a feeling he'd maybe pull it off, but you weren't sure because there were points in the movie where you just didn't think Daniel's going to get up, but Mr. Miyagi works his powers, and I think you know the rest. Number 1 on my list for favorite underdog movies, you know what it has to be. It's Rocky. If there has ever been a story that is the epitome of the underdog story, it's Rocky. I mean, the Karate Kid basically, I wouldn't say ripped off, but it borrowed heavily from Rocky. I simply love everything about the original Rocky from 1976. The story, the music, the fight scenes, the training montages, everything. It's really easy nowadays to become jaded with the Rocky franchise and forget the influence of the original Rocky had on countless films that came after it. I remember my dad telling me about when he saw it in the movie theater when it was originally released, and how the theater was so into the movie and the final fight scene that people were cheering and jumping from their seats with every punch. Now, the original script that Sylvester Stallone wrote had a much darker tone to it, as Rocky was supposed to become disenchanted with the whole circus around the fight and decides to throw the fight for a quick payday. Obviously, the producers and Stallone thought better of that initial idea and rewrote the script. The reason why the original movie works so well is that it isn't cheesy at all. Rocky didn't need to actually win to prove he was meant to be in the same ring as the champ, Apollo Creed. He had to go the distance. That's it. I will never get sick of watching Rocky. Now, I had a rant about the Oscars earlier, and this is one of the few times where the underdog movie actually won. Nowadays, if Rocky was up against All the President's Men, Network, and Taxi Driver, there's absolutely no way that they would vote for Rocky. Rocky is too much of a feel-good story to win. My guess is if something like Taxi Driver or All the President's Men was today, one of those wins, no way Rocky wins. Okay, so for this week, Josephine and I are going to talk about our favorite underdog movies. It doesn't actually have to be the underdog movie, meaning the old superhero, the dog. No, because Gwen already said, "Can I pick that?" And I said, "You can, but why?"
I have not heard of it.
Yeah, it was an old cartoon way back when, like the 50s, but then they made a movie out of it too, and yeah. I'm going to cut all this out.
Is the dog an underdog?
I don't know. I think it's just a play on words more than anything, but I guess, yeah. Anyway, what is your underdog movie?
So I have many, because I love underdog movies. You love to kind of fight for the person that it's kind of underestimated.
Sure.
And who doesn't love that, right?
It's hard to root for the person that is already on top or that is already successful. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So my absolute favorite is a movie that I have a hard time finding anyone else that loves as much as I do.
Okay.
And I've talked to a lot of movie people. I mentioned this movie and their face falls. So I've had people say, "Oh yeah, I saw that with my boyfriend and we walked out." All right, so it's that bad. So it's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Okay, I haven't seen it, so I've heard about it, but so I want to know why.
Why they hate it, or why it's an underdog movie?
Both, actually.
Well, the movie itself is about, it takes place during the Cold War, and basically all of the MI6 spies, like the good ones, the ones who were kind of trustworthy and good at their jobs, they're kind of falling apart. So, like, George Smiley, the main character, he's been fired. His mentor was fired, disgraced, and died. All of his friends are kind of pushed out of MI6. And Carla, who is the his biggest adversary is in power, and so he is kind of like and his wife has left him, of course, and so he's kind of like at the bottom, just trying to kind of like muddle through his retirement, and he gets called and says, we have reported that there's a mole working at the top ranks of MI6. So since you're out of MI6, but you're familiar with everyone, can you come back and investigate? So it's that kind of cliche. He's given one last chance to redeem himself.
Exactly.
And I love that kind of stuff because his life is in such shambles. I mean, maybe this is my own negativity. That it'd be hard to really redeem every facet of his life. But I think at this point, in the novel, he's so kind of mired in that world. I think he's kind of thinking, this is the only thing I can do, So I don't think he's really hoping that everything in his life will fall back into place. Sure. But if there's one thing he can do, then I think he's going to do it. And I feel like that's kind of the motivation for a lot of these underdogs.
Right. So why did people hate it?
Well, the movie that came out, I think it was in 2010, it really heavily relied on the audience putting the pieces together. So I'll even admit that when I saw it, I loved like the soundtrack, I loved the acting, I loved like the color palette, but I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew by the end that they had won, and I had missed a lot of crucial things. And of course, I went and I read Roger Ebert's reviews because, as you do when you don't really understand a movie, but you liked it and you want to kind of be a part of it in a way. Like, okay, something amazing happened and I don't get it, but someone explained it to me. And I think even Roger Ebert said, like, at the end, I knew something really important happened, but I don't know what it was. And so I think it really relied on the audience to put the pieces together.
And watch over and over.
And watch it over and over again, which after I saw the movie, I read all of these kind of analysis about it, and then I read the book, and then looked for the screenplay, and I looked for podcasts with the screenwriter. I mean, I got really into it. And I read the book again. I just really enjoyed the story and like all these different characters that were kind of like part of Smiley's world. And I'm
gonna have to watch it now.
Watch it. It's a great movie. The other one is, these two are from the same director writer. So one is the Calvary and the Guard. Did you see the Guard?
No.
So with Brendan Gleeson and Don Cheadle, who is great. I think Calvary is also with Brendan Gleeson, and he plays a priest in this really small town, and he's doing confession, and the guy in confession says, I was horribly abused by this priest when I was a kid, and I'm going to kill you just to make a statement. And because you're a good priest, and if I kill a bad priest, nothing's going to happen. If I kill a good priest, it's going to make a statement. And so he gives this priest 7 days to kind of get his life in order. And it's just, I don't know how to describe it.
So who's the underdog here?
Is
it the priest?
Yeah,
okay, good.
It's him, and it's just, because he's made so many mistakes in his life, and I think, when he's going kind of around to his parish and visiting all the people, they're kind of in the same spot where they're just kind of they're miserable, they're spiteful, but he's still trying to kind of save them, and so that's that. And the Guard is a little bit similar. It's a little bit funnier, where he's a policeman in Ireland, and he's racist, he does drugs, he's an alcoholic, and it's almost like he doesn't give a shit. And then they hear that the international, a huge drug deal is going to go off in this small town, and he decides to he does have enough of a moral center to do the right thing. Yeah. And it's just great because there's just corruption all around him.
Right.
And that's the other kind of thread that you see, that even if there's corruption all around you, your career, everything's going to be in shambles. You're going to do the right thing anyway, which I feel like is incredibly noble and brave. And
unless you're a bad lieutenant or something like that.
So my other one is Spy. Love that movie with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, that's right.
Because she's...
I didn't even think about it. You're right. She is.
She's so fantastic. And I'll admit that I kind of watch it wanting to get pumped up.
Yeah.
Because I really identify with her, because she's just an ordinary woman just trying to do her best at her job. And she's kind of undermined every step of the way. But all she has is her belief that she can do this job.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's a great one.
Yeah. And then The Verdict.
Yes, with
Paul Newman.
Yes, yeah, that's
Charlotte Rampling.
Yes, that's a real tough movie.
Yeah, it's tough to watch, but he's so fantastic in it. And that's one where
He's an alcoholic, right?
He's an alcoholic ambulance chaser.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
like he's got one case. And even I had to ask a lawyer friend of mine, like, what happened in the end that swayed, like, sorry, spoiler alert. The jury.
They haven't seen it by now,
Yeah. So I love that. And then the other one is 2 Days, One Night with Marianne Cotillard. Did you see it?
I have not seen that.
Oh,
so of all these, I've seen Spy and The Verdict. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I have to go back and
so
watch.
many.
But that's why a lot of people listen to this podcast haven't heard of some of these movies. They go and watch it. So this is good.
Yeah. So that's a really great one where she's. I think it takes place in Belgium, and she's. She works in a solar panel factory, and she took some time off to deal with her depression. Now she's back. Like kind of slowly coming out of her depression, ready to get back to work. And the factory said that because we were able to cover your job while you were gone, we don't need you anymore. And so they're like, okay, either we'll hire you back, and people are going to lose their bonuses. So she has like 1 weekend to kind of convince everyone to kind of vote for her to stay.
Really?
And it's just it's harrowing. It's it's just really great, and she just delivers such a like honest, raw performance. It's just really fantastic.
That sounds good.
Yeah. The other one, I think we brought this up, Working Girl.
Yeah.
Totally, just
absolutely
hilarious, and yeah, it's just. I mean, can you when you watch it, can you identify with her? Just like. I totally identify with just like kind of wanting more than what people expect of you.
Sure.
Well,
you're giving that inch, and everyone's probably, well, not everyone, but a lot of people have had bosses that they can't stand, and then there's a piece of everything in that movie where you probably identify with something. Even if it just be the relationship between her and Harrison Ford. So
and just. I mean, I just think she's in this environment where people say, can't you just settle for this with everyone else around you? But she wants more, and she keeps going and going and going. And like her coworkers are assholes to her. And then that relationship she forms with Sigourney Weaver where she thinks, oh, an ally, oh, a mentor, finally. And then she fucks her over.
That's right.
And yeah, I just love it. I identify with so much.
That's why I'm not settling. This podcast is going to be huge. Like, I'm not settling for middle. Yeah.
So the other one's Attack the Block. Have you seen it?
Never.
I don't know if this would count as an Underdog. It's basically these. Have you heard of it?
I have not. Yeah.
You might like it because to me it recalled a lot of. I remember it came out in the summer, and it recalled a lot of like summer movies you'd see as a kid, and then you get really pumped for it and like pretend you were in the movie. It's basically these kids who live in like a block, like the projects in outside of London.
Okay.
And aliens land and crash into their projects, and it just gets totally like bananas after that. So at that point, the aliens are after them, the police are after them, and it's drug dealers after them.
Wow.
So and they're
what
trying to
like.
I want to say 2010 as well.
Okay.
But basically, they're being pursued, and they're also trying to kind of like quote unquote like defend their apartment tower.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Edgar Wright is in it. No, not Edgar Wright. Nick Frost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he has a really great role in that too. Yeah.
These are all good. I'm gonna have to take a list of all
Look
these.
Look that up. Yeah,
these are all good.
Yeah, it's like the perfect summer movie. Serenity, The Firefly. Did you ever watch Firefly?
No, I didn't know. This is why I have other people on the show because I have, I want to broaden my horizons.
Yeah. Okay. So it's Nathan Fillion, Alan Tudyk, Gina Torres. They're kind of like a band of like outlaws. So it takes place kind of like in the future.
Okay.
And they're being pursued by like the Republic or something like that. Anyway, so they're the end. Oh, and Chiwetel Ejiofor is in it, and he's great. He plays like the bad guy. He's fantastic. Okay. Rustin.
You always do your homework. This is great.
Rust and Bone, another Marianne Cotillard movie.
Okay. Yes.
And I can't pronounce his name. Mateus Schnartz. He's. Okay.
Yours is as good as mine.
So that's a really great Underdog movie where they're both kind of like trying to kind of build their lives back up.
Yeah.
And, Legally Blonde. Come on.
True.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
I love that movie because I think people in her class at Harvard just assume she was dumb because she's blonde. But if you watch it, she never says anything dumb. It's just totally a cultural
thing. It's all the
thing.
look. Yeah.
No Country for Old Men. Tommy Lee. Tommy Lee Jones. Yes. I find like all these Underdog movies are kind of westerns too. When you're kind of
it is kind of like the unnamed person comes and like a lot of Clint Eastwood movies are like that, where he's not even the underdog. He's helping the underdog usually. Like he's the guy that comes in and saves it. Like in High Noon or Pale Rider, not High Noon, Pale Rider. But,
where like the odds are stacked against you.
Yeah.
And like your opponent has like the upper hand in so many ways.
Well, actually, Unforgiven. Did you ever see Unforgiven?
Yeah.
He's like kind of down on his luck, and then at the end he finally gets it back.
It's redeemed.
He is, everything, But you don't think he has it like the whole movie. So
So my question is, I'm not sure if it's Underdog. It's a very long engagement with the woman Amelie. Audrey Tautou.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I chose that because it takes place, I think, right after World War One, and she's been told that her fiance is dead, but she really believes in her heart that he's still alive. So she embarks on this crazy journey to find him, to track him down. And I think it was an Underdog movie because
That's an underdog,
the odds are stacked against you, and no one really believes except for you.
That's right.
Kinky Boots.
Well, I've heard of it, but I've never actually.
Yeah, so that's a really good Underdog movie with like the Shoe Factory. I didn't know Joel Edgerton was in that.
I didn't either.
He's fantastic. Yeah. Another one, I don't know if anyone's heard of, it's called Green Fingers.
No.
It's with Clive Owen, one of my forever boyfriends. And he plays this prison inmate who gets introduced to gardening. It's kind of a therapeutic, kind of reinstating you back into society thing. And he just gets super into it, and he and his friends like enter a competition. So with that,
interesting,
total Underdog.
Yeah.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Come on.
Definitely. Yeah.
Bend It Like Beckham, sports movie.
That's funny.
My one sports movie. And then I had Mad Max.
There you go. The original or the...
I haven't seen the original. So all I've seen is the Charlize Theron one with like the grandmas like kicking ass.
There may be one, because we're eventually going to do is the remake better than the original. That might be one that is better than the original. So,
oh, really? I have not seen the original. Was the original kind of cheesy or something? Or
it was filmed in the late 70s. Mel Gibson.
Tina Turner.
Yeah, she was in the third one, I believe, the Beyond Thunderdome one. So,
okay.
So, yeah. I know. Everyone remembers the theme song that she did, but yeah. Was that it?
That's it.
I mean, I don't want to say is that it. I mean, but those are awesome. I probably have to go and check out pretty much 80% of those.
Yeah, Attack the Block. I think you would like
it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Josephine.
Yeah.
All right. We're here with Dane, and then for this week's subject, we're going to do your favorite Underdog movies. So you got an interesting pick. So
yeah, you specified when you were seeking or you soliciting people to talk about this.
That's right.
That was it goes beyond sports movies.
Absolutely.
If you're Underdog, and you typically think of a sports movie.
Sure.
And one movie obviously comes to mind. But what came to mind for me was American Splendor, which upon thinking about it, it's kind of more of an anti-hero type film.
Absolutely.
And it's arguable whether they're an underdog because an underdog wants to be the top dog.
Sure.
Not always sure an anti-hero or the kind of underdog in American Splendor wants to be much more than he is, and I don't. And I think I'm trying to recall how the film ended, and I'm not so. I mean, he was
it's based on a true
marginally
story.
more famous, or at least he was, but
sure,
he was kind of okay being where he was at.
Yeah.
He's conflicted, right? Like he complained about his life a lot, but it was arguable really whether he wanted to change too much about it. But so I guess it's more anti-hero than underdog.
Yeah.
But that American Splendor comes to mind.
Well, Paul Giamatti is such a good actor, and to kind of tie it to sports, his dad, Bart Giamatti, was the commissioner of baseball, I believe he was the commissioner of baseball, or at least the commissioner of the National League at the time in the 80s. He was part of the Pete Rose scandal. And that he was the person that banned Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, if I recall, he bet against his own team or something?
That's the claim.
Games
when he was managing. So that's what's kept him out of the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I didn't know for years that that was Paul Giamatti's dad. And tragically, not too long after making that decision, he died of a heart attack. So this is a long time ago. Yeah.
But Giamatti, that sounds like a kind of guy who'd be sports announcer.
That's it. Yeah. But going back to American Splendor.
Yeah, Abe Vigoda was not a sports announcer.
No, he wasn't.
But names like that are associated. Who is a famous Yogi Berra? Is that Italian, or is that even a?
I don't know what
I don't think
Yogi
it
was, but he was famous for his quotes. That's
His last name ends in a way that suggests Italian.
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti. He was in that sports movie, that really kind of mumblecore movie.
Yeah.
About except some high school wrestling movie. For the Win. I don't know. Something like that.
He played Pig Virus in Private Parts too. Howard Stern's nemesis, the evil program director. So yeah, he's a really good actor.
Yeah. Well, he's been in that movie now. Is like over 20 years old,
which is crazy. I remember seeing
Private Parts. Yeah.
I remember reading the book too.
I remember my dad liked it only because speaking of dads and stuff, he grew up in like the broadcasting world in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Well, he was grown up by the 80s, but his career began there. And so he was interested in that movie for all of the attention to detail.
Exactly.
As far as early radio.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not early radio.
No.
Classic
kind of 70s, 80s.
Classic rock age radio.
Exactly. Yeah.
And even though he's more a talk show. But yeah, he didn't really care for the vulgarity of Howard Stern, but he tolerated the movie because he liked looking at all the old equipment. And
exactly.
He said like, they get all the details right.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a trend actually in a lot of films and TV these days, all that attention to detail.
Exactly. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing any sort of period piece, whether it be the cars or the buildings and things like that.
Yeah, just the bar has been risen, across the board.
Absolutely.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So
have you seen American Splendor in a while?
Not recently.
Okay.
No. But I remember that it was it kind of covered a period of like, I don't know, maybe late 60s to sometime in the 90s.
Yeah.
And the movie was 2003 or 4?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know at one point it touched upon the rise of MTV and the corporatization of the idea of being a nerd.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, and I remember he had kind of a falling out with the nerd character for selling out or something.
Yeah. Which, come on. But Giamatti was, and then talk about
MTV sent me to spring break and gave me cool free stuff.
Exactly.
Am I going to say no to that? Right?
Come on. Giamatti, you've seen Sideways, right?
Cleveland.
You've seen Sideways, right?
Yeah.
So that's right around the same time, and he's totally the anti-hero in that too.
I just remember him drinking the spittoon.
Oh yeah, that was so good.
That's rock bottom.
A
wino. I mean,
and his buddy who was in Wings, he was really funny guy.
Yeah, Thomas Hayden Church,
yes,
something like that.
Yeah, good memory.
Christensen Church.
No, Hayden Church. Yeah.
I'm thinking Kristen.
No, I know.
It's like some 21-year-old or something. These millennial or Gen Z.
Well, once we get old enough, there's way too many things in our heads to remember. So,
yeah.
Oh, these are great. Thank you so much.
So anyway, that was my Underdog movie.
No, that's a good one.
Underdog.
Okay, for this week, Gwen doesn't have a trivia quiz for us, but that's okay because she still does her homework. And she's always prepared, and she's got one or maybe two really good choices here, which I don't know yet, but I'm taking...
I could have a quiz if you...
If
you've seen this movie before.
We could see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite... what are we doing this week again? Oh, that's right. Your favorite Underdog movie.
All right. So my favorite Underdog movie, not the Underdog cartoon.
Correct.
So I would have to say the all-time Underdog movie of mine is Bad News Bears.
That's a great one. That is actually on my long list of Underdog movies. It's a great movie. The original, I hope. The original,
with
Walter Matthau.
1977?
77, 76?
I think it's 1976.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Walter Matthau, Tatum O'Neal.
Yeah, you have a lot of great actors here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what makes it best, of course, is the characters.
Oh, yeah.
I love the characters. One of my favorite ones is Tanner.
Oh, yeah.
He was that little spunky kid.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Who had a foul mouth
yes.
and a Napoleon complex as well. And, I loved him.
It's funny today, and I didn't see the remake because I don't like a lot of remakes. I've
never seen the remake. Yeah.
They toned down. I mean, this movie couldn't be made. At least the same dialogue couldn't be made today because he says some racist things. He says some obviously very vulgar things, and this is coming out of I think a 10 or 11-year-old's mouth.
Right.
So, but that's kind of the charm of the movie, and that's the charm of the 70s.
Exactly. Yeah. And another character I really liked was, of course, Amanda.
Yes, which is Tatum O'Neal.
Tatum O'Neal.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think I watched this film when it was in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and...
it was really cool that they made... I mean, really, she's the star athlete on an all-boys team. Yeah, and this is the 70s, so yeah.
And so that's what I really liked about this film, is because you have this, like, girl who's playing, like, a major role.
Absolutely.
And it was just great because, when you're growing up, you kind of, like, resonate with certain characters.
Sure.
And with her, I wanted to resonate and be that girl, like, on the baseball team.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
Because my older brother played Little League.
Okay.
And, of course, I'd go to his games and practices, and I'd be bored because I couldn't play because I was a girl.
Right.
And then this movie comes out, and it's like, yeah,
you absolutely can.
Right.
To give you a story, when I was in Little League, there was one girl in an all-boys league, and she was absolutely one of the better players in the entire league, and she did really, really well. And that always reminds me of this movie because she made the all-star team and everything. Like, yeah.
What did she play?
I want to say she might have pitched a little bit, but I think she played shortstop, which when you're in Little League, that's actually a key position. We usually, the people that aren't as good, they put them in outfield until they get older.
Right.
So, because nobody's really hitting it that far.
Right.
But no, she was excellent, and she always reminded me of Amanda.
So, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and I used to practice playing baseball with my brother.
Yeah.
And I'd pretend I was a pitcher. I'd pretend I was Fernando Valenzuela.
So did you look up in the
Dodgers,
sky and Did you throw left-handed too?
Oh no.
Okay, well you didn't go that far, but he was a phenom back in the early '80s. I mean, he Dodger Mania and Fernando Mania.
What happened to him?
He actually ended up being a really good pitcher throughout the '80s, and then I don't think he kept himself in the greatest shape. Like he was always kind of portly. Right now, so he is the Spanish-speaking announcer for, I believe, the Padres. I want to say the Padres.
Oh, really?
And he's been doing that for a long time. So
that's great.
Yeah, so that's what he went into after baseball.
Oh wow. Yeah. So I pretended I was a baseball player.
Yeah.
And that kind of like resonated.
Mm-hmm.
But from my understanding is that Bad News Bears was the 11th highest grossing American film in 1976. And it beat Taxi Driver.
That I believe because, Taxi Driver is definitely, even though it's a critically acclaimed movie, it's not for everyone.
Exactly. Exactly. And I liked what Roger Ebert said. He had a review and he called it an unblinking, scathing look at competition in American society.
Absolutely.
And, if you compare it to the competition these kids are in now, it's completely different, I'm sure. But it's interesting because, this was in the 1970s. And you had that regular kind of competition where it's like you have the losers and the winners, but then I think maybe the next generation or the generation after, the kids were taught they're all winners.
Right, yes.
And so now you have, I guess, millennials.
Nobody loses anymore.
Nobody loses, and they expect everything handed on a silver platter.
Everyone gets a participation trophy. But,
exactly.
And I've always brought this up. With team sports, you really learn something because you can't always win. More often than not, you're going to lose. And you actually get better from losing than you do winning all the time. When I was in Little League, we lost in the playoffs. And at 10 or 11 years old, it was devastating. But the next year we came back and won, and it made it that much better because you went through the losing first. You realize how special it is to win.
And you work harder.
Right, absolutely.
And did your dad say, "Oh, you're a winner. It's okay"?
Honestly, I don't even remember. But no, he knew. One thing he did do, and he's like, a lot of parents, and this is the problem with kids sports nowadays. The parents are probably the worst. Some of them are way too, and that's actually happens in Bad News Bears. That's a vital point where the other team's coach is also the parent, and
exactly,
and he hits the kid on the mound and everything. He's not playing hard enough, and but no, my dad's like, I could get you on the All-Star team, but you don't deserve it. You're not the All-Star caliber player, and at the time it hurt, but he was right. Just because he could politic to get me on the All-Star team didn't mean I deserved it. And that actually, now I understand it. Now I respect that. But there were people on the All-Star team that didn't deserve it because their parent was a coach, and that's not right. I mean, it should be whoever deserved it or earned it. So.
Yeah, and I think with team sports, it helps you to be able to collaborate with people, especially people you don't necessarily like.
Absolutely.
I mean,
you play as a team.
Like Tanner, he was getting into fights with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it.
Yeah.
The whole 7th grade, he'll get in a fight.
That's right. But he defended the shy kid in the movie.
Yes.
So even though he probably wouldn't have been friends with him, they were on the same team, so he defended him,
Yeah, he stood up for him,
Yeah.
and so that was great. And then there was that one character, the one who drove the Harley.
Oh yeah, so he was your stereotypical bad boy,
Exactly.
but they corralled him for the greater good of the team, and he decided to pun intended, play ball. So, meaning like he played nice with everyone.
Yeah, and I think maybe there was at one point when Tanner maybe put up a fight with him.
He did. Yeah, he went after him.
Yeah.
And, but Walter Matthau is so good as kind of the suave and drunk, but even he kind of keeps it together for the good of the team at some point.
Yeah, and the coach for this film was just absolutely great well, even though he was a complete drunk and quote unquote
not
like
a great
loser,
guy. Yeah.
As well as, I mean, and he's teaching these kids who weren't like the best and the brightest. They're just like
they were throwaway
kids.
Yeah.
Throwaway kids, I guess you could say.
Yeah, because nobody wanted to coach the team.
Right.
He was just a replacement coach.
Yeah, so...
no, that's a great one, because this is absolutely an underdog story.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I didn't see the remake either. I don't really like to see remakes of great films.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But it would be interesting to know if the competition, is any different.
Well, if Lindley listens to this, she can let me know because I think she liked the remakes. But we'll ask her.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I'm with you. I don't have any desire to. Like, I never saw the remake of Karate Kid or Footloose.
No,
thanks.
No. I know that's on your list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Karate Kid?
Yes, that I believe it's number 2. Yeah.
Yes. So.
But 1976 was a good year for movies because you had Network, Taxi Driver, All the President's Men, and then of course the greatest underdog story of all time, Rocky. So it was a good year.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting because during that time, you had to wait until it came onto television.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you missed it in the theaters, forget it.
Yeah,
then you have to wait, until it actually comes on the regular channels, not cable, the regular channels.
The regular, yeah. Did you ever see the sequels to Bad News Bears, like when they
I
break
think
train?
I did, but I don't think it was as good.
The second one, they aren't as good, but the second one's funny or interesting because they end up playing in the Houston Astrodome.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the characters, some of them were still in it, some weren't. Amanda wasn't in it, and they replaced Walter Matthau with a different coach. But it's funny to see the old Houston Astrodome.
Oh, yeah.
And everything, and they get to play there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So. Yeah. So I would say that is my favorite underdog movie.
I think that's excellent.
Oh, and one last thing about Bad News Bears is Tatum O'Neal, she had commented in 2013 about how she... thinks it's really funny that she has a group of 48-year-old men like Vince Vaughn who have the posters of Bad News Bears.
Well, it's a movie that didn't go to style. So, yeah, if you're a sports fan,
that's true.
That's true. But I'm sure it's weird for her because she was a teenager at the time. So that's,
Exactly, yeah. And who knew back then that she'd, become really well known for this small role.
It's true. And I think the best known person by far was Walter Matthau. Okay, so Samantha and David are back. Thank you for joining me again.
Woo!
Took a few weeks off,
Yay!
And you were just ready for this episode to do Underdogs.
Just so excited for Underdogs. Love them so much.
There you go. All right, so we're going to start with David on this one. So what are your list of Underdog movies?
Let's see. I had them in my head and I forgot them all.
Yeah, sing, now you're radio shy.
Oh, one of my favorites, it's really kind of goofy, but The Replacements.
That's true.
With Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
And Gene Hackman's the coach.
Yeah.
And Jon Favreau plays the crazy
crazy,
linebacker.
Yeah. It was a good, good story of like, team of losers.
Yeah.
And the relationship between the coach and Keanu gets me every time.
What was Keanu's name in that? What was his last name?
Oh, crap. What was it?
I know he's a lefty. And it's just kind of funny.
Falco.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what his first name was. It was like Steve Falco or something.
What was it? It was something Falco.
But it's got a lot of great character actors. Favreau, the kicker, who's the
the like wily British guy.
Yeah, he played the lizard in the
Irfans
or something like that.
Irvins?
I don't know how you pronounce his name. Yeah. But tall, skinny guy. But yeah, that's a good one. It kind of reminds you of. Do you ever see The Longest Yard? The original?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds you of that, except they're not in prison. But yeah, all the band of misfits. Okay, well,
Shane Falco.
Shane Falco. There you go, Shane. Oh, Keanu.
Man, he was the best.
So I just saw a Keanu movie from the '80s called The Night Before.
It's in the '80s?
Yeah, and so he has to take a girl to the prom. And he's playing a dorky guy. But he looks exactly the same, so I don't know how he's going to pull off. And he tries to take out Lori Loughlin.
What?
So Cousin Jesse's wife.
I need to find that movie.
It's great. It's totally 80s and.
It's like an 80s nerd movie kind of thing?
Yeah, but it ends up having this crazy night where he basically has to backtrack his whole night because he wakes up and everything. He ends up selling her. He accidentally sold Lori Loughlin to a pimp, and so he's got to get her out. Yeah, it's a crazy 80s movie. So yeah, if you're into Keanu, you should see The Night Before.
The Night Before, all right. Find that one.
Total Underdog movie. Yeah. All right, so besides the replacements?
Another... Because, like I was saying, so many of the Underdog thing, it's like the kind of sport Underdog formula. Another one that I just saw recently was... what was it called? Ed of the Eagle. Yeah.
Oh, that was like a British movie, wasn't it?
Or like, it was like...
playing soccer or
No. It was British Olympic long jumping.
Oh, boy.
Long jumping? No, long jumping is the one where you run. Ski jumping? Ice jumping? One of those where you're on the skis?
Yes, yeah. I guess
ski jump? Ski long jump?
I don't know.
We should know. We've all worked on Olympic stuff, yeah. But
Samantha will do the crack research on that. Yeah.
It's Taron Egerton, the kid from The Kingsman.
Oh, yeah.
And Wolverine is his drunk, lovable coach.
Yeah. No way. Hugh Jackman.
Jumping.
Ski jumping.
Yeah. Based on a real person.
Yeah, they show this picture at the end. He looks real goofy. It's like a heartwarming, Underdog.
Pretty predictable.
Yeah. But it was done really well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a cute kind of Underdog, lovable loser.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we'll go back and forth. So Samantha, what is one of your favorite Underdogs?
I only have one.
Okay.
And I don't watch sport films.
Well, that's okay.
So I thought of The Devil Wears Prada.
Okay. So you should have been on last week to also do the movie quotes from Devil Wears Prada, so we could combine it. So why is this your favorite Underdog?
Well, I just like it, and I was thinking about it for some reason, and I was like, oh, hey, that fits, because it's one of those stories where someone who, doesn't quite belong, or they come in with, a lot of expectations, and it's a lot of hard work, but they power through.
Yep.
And she ends up just coming out on top.
It's true, and Meryl Streep's really good. She's not a villain, but she's just...
She's kind of antagonistic, but she's not, a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
But she's powerful enough to where, you could definitely be intimidated if you're Anne Hathaway coming into that. And plus her coworker... her name's escaping me right now. Emily Blunt is tough to deal with too, so she's got a lot against her. That's a great movie.
Good old Emily Blunt.
Good movie, and there's just some good messages in there. Because Meryl Streep, she isn't a nice person.
No.
She's a horrible person, and then Anne Hathaway figures out I could be that, but I'm not going to be that.
Yeah.
So she got back into journalism.
takes the
Showed
path.
them.
Yes, that's right.
Also, one of the only times that Adrian Grenier gets to be in a movie
That's a good
besides
point.
being an Entourage.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
of. I was like, has he been in anything since that? Like
Besides the
done
Entourage, the
anything?
movie?
Yeah.
I don't... Maybe like indies and stuff,
Maybe.
but...
Yeah. We'll have to
yeah,
look it up.
That poor guy. Yeah.
And he was a good person in Devil Wears Prada. He's a
He
nice,
was... Yeah. Well, I mean, the escalation of what's-her-face Anne Hathaway becoming, like, vilified for being good at her job
Yeah,
by all of her
true.
friends was kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And, like, the boyfriend, like, you weren't there on my birthday. It's
He
like,
he did. Oh, he got a
yeah,
little jealous.
he got
and
real
sad at the
mopey and
end.
sad dog
Yeah.
face.
And
So
then
you
they did break up for a bit. Sorry.
No, you forgot 1999's "Drive Me Crazy" with
That was
Melissa Joan
that
Hart.
was pre,
Very
Entourage.
pre-Entourage.
But I do recall that movie. It's very good.
He was in a movie called Teenage Paparazzo.
Oh.
Goodbye. A lot of indie movies. Goodbye World. No idea. Harvard Man.
Anything in the past like 5 years?
He was. That's a great point, Samantha. He was in Marauders, 2016. I don't
Was
know
that like a
what
horror movie?
Let's see. It's a crime thriller
Ooh.
with Christopher Maloney from Law and Order SVU, and Dave Bautista, who played.
Wow. Who played Drax?
That's right.
Yeah. And isn't he the new kickboxer in the new like straight to DVD kickboxer movie?
He may be.
I think.
Dave
Bautista. I think he's in the new
you're right.
kickboxer.
It's amazing how he's taken over for The Rock as the new wrestling.
The new muscle guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was in Spectre too.
Oh yeah. So forgettable.
Riddick, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, as far as the underdog formula,
Mhm.
it being kind of close to like the loser formula.
Yeah.
It's basically like every like what we in this podcast would consider classic comedy,
Right.
Like all the like classic Adam Sandler's
Sure.
and Chris
John Hughes.
Farley's and all of those, where it's like the loser has
Yeah.
to become like the hero at the end, like Black Sheep, Tommy Boy,
Yeah.
Billy Madison. All of those
Yeah.
are just the same formula of a loser, like proving that he's not really a loser and he's
Yeah.
actually really smart.
I think Sandler really follows the Frank Capra kind of. Well, he did do Mr. Deeds, so that was a Capra movie. But the David vs. Goliath, not to grab your name, but yeah, like Happy Gilmore is kind of he's kind of his own person, doesn't really care.
Yeah, Happy Gilmore was one that came to mind when I was like, a sport underdog movie.
Yeah.
But then I was just like, well, that's like all of those comedians' movies are the same. Like,
They are.
underdog, loser. and-
Waterboy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally
You
Waterboy.
took the words out of it?
Yeah.
But you can even do old school if you wanted to.
That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too, because that's a group of losers that have to be.
They're
Yeah.
trying to make it.
Yeah.
I almost picked. It's at the end, but I picked Animal House because that is kind of the.
Yeah.
Even though they do their own thing. they're
And
kind of-
and like Revenge of the Nerds and
yeah.
Porky's and all this. Like, yeah, I guess
Revenge of the
Yeah.
Nerds is a great one. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
epitome of,
I
like,
guess it's kind of it's like underdog sport formula, but
Yeah.
also comedy formula. 'Cause,
Yeah.
a lot of comedies are just like losers, underdogs,
Mhm.
like throwaway whatevers, and they have to somehow overcome blah blah.
I wonder how they would do Revenge of the Nerds now because there are like the cool kids now because they were into the computers and they were
Yeah.
doing all these really.
It'd be like 21 Jump Street
It
the
would
remake.
be. Yeah, exactly.
Channing Tatum would be the loser.
That's right. That was good. They kind of referenced that. Like
Yeah.
these guys are All right, no more.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
I was just trying to think, like, are there more female-led movies about underdogs? It's really a male-driven
So,
world.
Joseph-
G.I. Jane.
G.I.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Josephine brought up a great one from the '80s, which is Working Girl with Melanie Griffith. Since
Okay.
Sigourney Weaver's kind of the Devil Wears Prada
Mhm.
type thing,
Yeah.
so that was kind of pre-Devil Wears Prada. I had one which was Legend of Billie Jean because I'm a child of the '80s. Do you never saw it?
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that is.
Helen Slater, who was also
Oh,
Supergirl. Yep.
Yeah.
She plays kind of a Joan of Arc character, and so the backstory is she's kind of assaulted inside of a grocery store, and she pulls out her brother, played by Christian Slater, pulls out a gun on the guy that's doing it and shoots him by accident. So she goes on the run, and then she becomes like this cult hero because they're following her on TV, like racing, and people start rooting for her. So yeah, it's a really cheesy '80s
Oh.
movie. Pat Benatar is the theme song, so
Nice.
it's very good. But yeah, I mean, she's definitely the underdog, and she's taking care of her brothers and everything like that. So,
I guess that means like every Joan of Arc movie counts as an underdog.
absolutely.
So the Mila Jovovich Joan of Arc movie.
That's true. Yes, definitely. And again, I mentioned Cinderella. That's kind of the ultimate underdog. Trying to
$1 Million Baby is an underdog.
That's a great one. Yeah. Super sad one, but that's a good
female athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know other. Yeah, female-led underdog.
Well, you could go the high school route if you want to do 16 Candles and things like that, or
She's All That.
She's All That. Yeah,
Kinda, I guess. Yeah.
Some Kind of Wonderful is kind of both, because it's both the main character and then his friend who really likes him. You can go either way with that one. But.
Or I guess Can't Hardly Wait.
That's true.
He was like the loser in that. And,
yeah,
I don't know. I think really every movie kind of follows the same formula.
Yeah, that's what people like.
Yeah,
especially in romantic comedies. So.
Yeah, so you can relate to them and be like, that can happen to me too.
That's right.
That person's more of a loser than I am.
Yeah. I really relate. It's funny. No matter if you're cool or not cool, you're going to relate to the underdog for whatever reason, though you're probably not the underdog most of the time.
Well, also because like in movies, the cool kid or like whatever, like the popular person's usually played as like a jerk asshole anyway.
Right.
So even if you like did consider yourself to be the cool person, you're like, oh, I'm not like that in real life.
Yeah, you probably are.
Yeah, you probably are an asshole.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Yay.
Hey,
Okay, this week Malin is solo, but that's okay because he's always super prepared and has I'm sure, a terrific list of underdog movies.
Under what?
Underdog movies.
Underdog. Wait, okay. So what's an underdog?
So essentially, usually a lot of people consider it like sports. So the team that is never supposed to win comes out of nowhere and they win the championship or they do better than expected.
Right.
However, that can be applied to any sort of movie. Just someone that is underappreciated or they don't expect a lot out of that person, and then magically they do much better than expected.
Yeah, so I thought I would love underdog films. When I started thinking about it, I was like, I would totally be for underdog films, and I couldn't think of very many. Mm-hmm. So we'll keep this super quick.
That's okay.
Okay, so not really mentioning any sports ones, but...
That's fine.
So The Goonies leaps out. That's like an ultimate underdog movie.
Sure.
They're going to have the homes taken away, and there's just these kids, and they've got to like save their entire community.
Yeah.
And they manage to do it and have one of the best adventures on film, as long as you're under 18 years old. And then,
I still love it. I still have a soft place for it.
I told you this, right?
Yeah,
I was totally determined to become a Goonie.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But it's true. They were definitely, the whole purpose of that was one last mission to find that mysterious buried treasure to save their house.
Yeah. So, yes, that's maybe the best one I was able to come up with. But then I thought of some others that I do love.
Okay.
Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh, yeah.
Again, maybe I just have a soft spot for kids up against unsurmountable odds, and then just kind of kick the world in the ass.
Yeah. And there's one where the payoff is so good, and she doesn't necessarily win. She didn't have to win, but she succeeds in her own way.
Yeah. Actually, almost at the end of that movie, I think if she had won, I don't think I would even remember that I'd seen it.
Exactly.
But no, it was kind of a...
it's kind of
actually,
like... Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a really long time, but just thinking about it right now is kind of giving me the giggles.
Did you see it in the theater?
Yeah, I did. I saw it, I think, like... pretty early on in the run. I didn't know anything about it. And the only reason that we saw it was one of those situations where we had a local theater that did showed movies that were just a little bit off of the main highway for films. Yeah, and so we wanted to support the theater, and we had success previously there seeing movies, and I don't know, I had never even heard of it, had no idea what we were seeing.
Yeah.
And usually a movie called Little Miss Sunshine, that is not the type of movie I usually look for. I don't know how we got in there, but we loved it.
I found out actually through Yahoo, because I was working on Yahoo Movies through editorial, and I saw the trailer because I was always putting in the new movies. Right. I'm like, this looks really good, so we checked it out. And we were rolling in the aisles because it was totally unexpected, that ending. I didn't see it coming. So the entire theater was just, in an uproar over that.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think I'm going to have to cancel the rest of my meetings for today and just rewatch. Like, maybe even just the end of that. I'm sure you could see the end.
Oh, absolutely. So that's a great one.
Precious. Yeah. So another one, again, another kid against insurmountable odds, Billy Elliot. Which is fantastic because not only, unfortunately, that has the ending that everybody is expecting.
Sure.
But, British movies have kind of a formula for underdog films, especially around, like, period pieces around the miners, and then you have, like, this family or a kid or something kind of rising above all of that.
Sure.
And that's exactly what this is. It falls into a whole genre of British movies of the last, 20 years. But that one's great. And even though it is point by point kind of predictable, by the time you get to the end, there are a few kind of unsuspected levels that you can tear
which
apart.
Helps.
Which is, absolutely. Yeah.
That's
it's not
good.
nearly as simple as it seems on the surface. So another film that falls into that kind of British category, the industry falling apart under Thatcher, is Kinky Boots. Have you seen?
I have
Kinky
not.
Boots?
I've always heard about it. I know it's also on Broadway too, right? Or at least
Yeah.
they do,
So Harvey Fierstein and Cyndi Lauper did create a Broadway musical production.
Right.
It was not originally a musical.
Right.
I know you have a grudge against musicals. So.
Not a grudge, but they just aren't in my viewing.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee the movie's not a musical. Have you seen Billy Elliot?
A long time ago. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if that didn't hurt, then this one
This
hurt.
won't hurt.
Yeah,
I've only heard
exactly.
good things about it. So this is one I go back and I've
So
watched.
this one is family shoe manufacturing businesses slowly going out of business. The son inherits it. He doesn't realize it's been going out of business, finds out, and then quickly has to scramble to find a way to get it successful again. And he finds out that there is a market, an untapped market for boots, female-looking boots for men, for drag queen in particular.
Oh, okay.
And so it is really interesting in terms of social history, social justice, as well as
what year was
glorious
this?
comedy. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. Now, so you keep asking years, and I have more degrees than I'd like to admit in history. I could not tell you the year of anything. That is what notes are for. And for movies, that's what IMDb is for.
I remember all that stuff, and I probably shouldn't. So Kinky Boots, the movie.
I'm going to guess in the 90s.
Okay.
Mid-90s?
2005.
Oh.
Wow.
See, that's why.
Does it take place modern day? Or
No,
is
it's period.
It's period piece.
Yeah, it's
okay.
like, I don't even know when it takes place.
Okay.
I don't want to guess.
I understand.
I was already so off by the
But
time
no, the premise sounds interesting, so I'd like to check it out.
Yeah, you should. And then, okay, so moving on. Anyway, a movie that has a great underdog, but I don't necessarily like the movie.
Okay.
I'm waiting for a better version to be produced. The Hobbit. The underdog of all underdogs.
Yes.
And he just needs a place in cinematic history that suits him well.
Right. That isn't all packed into one movie that is 2.5, 3 hours long.
I think I and probably many other literature and cinema snobs like myself are totally ready for a kids-friendly, romantic, charming version of The Hobbit.
Which is surprising that there hasn't been one.
There's an animated version, right?
Okay.
I think you'd have to double-check me. I know there was an animated version of Lord of the Rings, and and that makes me think that there was of The Hobbit as well. But there has not been a production of The Hobbit that is stuck in my mind well enough. Yeah.
Okay.
So if there was, I'm vaguely aware of it,
Hollywood
or I saw it and didn't like it.
Seems to consistently run out of ideas, so that's probably
they'll come around to give them maybe 7 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then they'll come knocking it. So The Hobbit, please, somebody out there. Okay, then I only have 2 more.
Okay.
This one is totally predictable. Star Wars, again.
Absolutely.
Maybe the underdog of underdog films. I have nothing else to say.
No,
that.
That's obvious is good, because I think often we try to outsmart ourselves, but my number one was Rocky, and that's the epitome to me of an underdog. And so many movies were copied after that. And same thing with Star Wars. So it's totally okay to mention the obvious.
Okay. Well, I feel like I haven't done enough research. That's why I get to like Star Wars. I'm like, if I have to keep resorting to like saying Star Wars, that means I just haven't been using my brain. It can't be the only one. Okay, then the last one on my list is The Elephant Man. Not because it's necessarily like the most conventional underdog film, because it's not like he was trying to win a competition or anything, but just to prove his own humanity.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's so successful on that level alone, as well as so many others. And I was recently reminded of this, and I may have already blathered on about this. Stop me if I did. But I saw The Elephant Man in the theater very recently as part of a film and art festival. And I hadn't seen it in the theater since its original release, although I had seen it on TV. And the film had, I hate to admit it, but completely escaped me. Having seen it only on television in the last 20 or 30 years, however long it's been since its original release.
1980.
Okay.
That I know.
Yeah, it had completely escaped me, the emotional impact of it.
Yeah.
And seeing it again in the theater with people just gagging on sobs, it was a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And the payout of that film was...
Yeah, I don't know how they would treat that movie now. Like, would they go for what they go for then? I think there's a certain... It's more powerful back then because they weren't afraid to really show it how it is.
Yeah.
There's
Although
one...
it's still powerful.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
But I take your point. I think the treatment of it would be...
almost softer, I think, now.
Profoundly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a soft film.
At all. There's one we were talking about Oscars where it was nominated in 1980, and I think Ordinary People beat Elephant Man, Raging Bull, and another movie that stands the test of time better than Ordinary People. Exactly. That would be. We might call that episode that. That'll be a good one. So on that note, this is why I'm going to end the podcast. Fuck the Oscars. Thanks, Malin. Thank you to everyone who agreed to be interviewed for this episode. The show simply would not be as good without you guys. All right, I had a few more picks, actually a lot more picks, that didn't make my top 10 list, but they're all great underdog movies. One is Animal House. You heard the clip in the beginning. The boys and the frat trying to go against the evil frat, but doing it in a funny way and getting the revenge at the end. Perfect underdog. Bad News Bears, which almost made my top 10. I'm glad Gwen mentioned it because that's a great underdog story. Adventures of Robin Hood. Robin Hood in general is the epitome of an underdog story. Dodgeball. It even has underdog in the title because I think it's Dodgeball, an underdog story. It's a silly comedy starring Ben Stiller and Vince Vaughn, but it's a lot of fun. Footloose, in the town where nobody can dance. Of course, you need Kevin Bacon to come in his underdog way and with his goofy dancing and save the small town. Forrest Gump, I know Malin hates the movie, but it is an underdog story. The guy has some sort of roadblock, but he always perseveres in his own way. Major League, it's the epitome of a baseball underdog story. Horrible team, the Indians, who still can't win, finally get their chance. Here's a good one, Meatballs, which was Bill Murray's very first movie while he was still on Saturday Night Live. The underdog camp going against the rival big-time camp, always a lot of fun. My Bodyguard, that was a fun movie. I forgot the guy's name that was in it, but the guy who played My Bodyguard. But the villain was Matt Dillon, who kept picking on this little kid, the kid was also in Meatballs. He played Rudy. So anyway, if you don't know the story, the kid that keeps getting picked on by Matt Dillon hires an older kid, or a much bigger kid, and I think he's a little bit older, to basically defend him. So it's a nice underdog movie. Old school, super fun. Underdog in the sense that they're trying to get even with the bigger frats and I believe the president of the school. Pretty in Pink, John Hughes movie. I picked, let's see, Legend of Billie Jean and movies like that. But yeah, Say Anything I think would be the best one that was kind of connected. So I had to make Sophie's choice. But Pretty in Pink, of course, there's two underdogs, both Ducky and Andy. Three more. Valley Girl, guy from the wrong side of the tracks, like Nicolas Cage, meets the Valley Girl. Of course, you know what happens. The Water Boy, I know I can only go with one Adam Sandler movie. I chose Happy Gilmore, but definitely The Water Boy is an underdog. And lastly, Vision Quest, starring Matthew Modine as a wrestler who he's an underdog just because he doesn't take himself as seriously as the other guy, but that's a good underdog story. All right, this was a lot of fun to do, but now it's time for the plugs. You got to go to iTunes. We need more reviews. We need more ratings. You can also subscribe on iTunes. So please go there and subscribe, rate, and review the show. You can also go to Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com. You can subscribe there as well and always get our content. You can check us out on Facebook. So if you like the page, every time that we post a new show, we always promote it on Facebook, so you'll never miss an episode. You can also go to YouTube. Sometimes we don't have all the content due to copyright issues, but you can always go there and catch some of the episodes that don't have a lot of music. All right, until next week, this is Brian signing off.
Fuck the Oscars.
Hey!